All right, welcome Nittany No Huddle Nation. I would like to say a big win, but a win versus Illinois on the road. Wasn't pretty early, but we got it done late. 30-13 in the Big Ten opener on the road. Guys, what's your first take? Devin, I'll kick it over to you first.
It wasn't pretty, it wasn't good, but I think Zach at the beginning of the year basically said that this was a game that he wouldn't be surprised if we lost. So I think we kind of saw this coming. Drew Aller's first road test in his career. Still got a lot of guys filling into new positions, starting on the Big Ten on the road, 11 a.m. kickoff against in a 3/4 full stadium. It wasn't pretty, but it's a win. And I think at the end of the day, we still covered the spread, and our defense looked elite at times, and our offense was pretty bad. But I'm not crazy concerned. Like I feel like Jordo, if you're going next or after Zach,
I can go next.
like I'm not as crazy concerned as I feel like you are, and maybe some fans as I'm scrolling through our official Nittany No Huddle Twitter account. So.
Yeah, I was initially concerned. What's up, Duncan? Good to see you on the podcast again. Let me remove our thing here. There we go. Yeah, I probably was panicking a little bit early. Yeah, I just it felt like one of those games that I've seen us lose before, and I think my post-traumatic Penn State disorder kicked in, and I was like, "Oh no, this is happening again on the road." Like, kind of reminded me of the Iowa game from a few years ago when Clifford got hurt. It just felt like that kind of game, and I think I panicked a little bit. We did bring it around, but our offense, I don't know, it didn't look good. But we had some big plays down the stretch, and I tell you what, I really like Bo Prabula. I don't know.
Is he our best running back?
Possibly. I mean, he just brings something else to the table, and I don't know what it is, but maybe it's because he's playing against second stringers, when he gets in late. But
Illinois still had their first team out there. Johnny Newton was still trying to get into the backfield.
All right. We got Paul Wall on here. He's saying Penn State 10-2 or 9-3. It's funny he brings that up because I was literally about to say that. And I texted you guys earlier. I was like, I feel like it's another 11-2 season. I mean, maybe I'm overreacting. And Zach, I'll let you talk a little bit here, but I don't know. Yeah. It just feels like we're stuck in that wheel again.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything really either of you have said in a vacuum. The thing that I will try to bring back to everybody is like, let's not get sucked into, and you heard Joel Klatt say it over and over, and we all are saying it, but like there is more to the 2023 college football season for Penn State than Ohio State and Michigan, right? You've got to play each game and win each game, and you've got to handle the challenges that each individual game presents, and you've got to handle the challenges that each team and the style and the coaching staff from the opposition gives you. And there are going to be challenges, right? It's not going to be, and even last year, it wasn't just, 10, 30-point blowouts and then 2 losses to Ohio State and Michigan. There were games where we were challenged in different ways, and especially on the road with a new quarterback, a win is a win, right? And a fairly comfortable win at the end is still something to be somewhat satisfied with, given the struggles that we had in a lot of different areas. The flip side, of course, is you win the turnover battle 5-0. Going into the game, I would have said, okay, we probably win by like 40 then, right? I think that's maybe the one. If Illinois doesn't turn the ball over that much, this is maybe a game. But
it's literally what Devin and I talked about this a lot. Came on.
Yeah.
Defensively, we are. I grew up with like the Tom Bradley 4-3. Defensive front plays a very static, hit the guy in front of you, keep your gap integrity, and we're going to give up yards. We did last year with Manny Diaz. And the flip side is Illinois, they move the ball, boom, the quarterback throws an interception. Or, Dom DeLuca forces a fumble. We're more of a risk-reward type defense, and I think some of us, even though this isn't year one with Manny Diaz, some of us, myself included, need to just accept the fact that we're not just going to be stonewalling rushing attacks at the line of scrimmage and not giving up any yards. We're going to be giving up yards, but we're going to try to force takeaways. And that's what you saw, I think, defensively. Offensively, probably a little bit more concerned coming out of the game, but it's something where I think every unit of the offense as a whole played kind of poorly at different points of the game. So it's on one hand, it's not the type of scenario where you look back and just say, man, the offensive line is horrible and we'll never get it figured out, or man, the QB stinks, or we just don't have a running back. I think there were some flaws exposed kind of a little bit at each level. I don't think Allard played very well at all. I think he had a lot of throws where, and again, it wasn't all him, but I think there was a number of open receivers that he just overthrew them or put it off frame. Even from the very beginning, I think maybe it was you, Jordan, that mentioned it. He had the happy feet going, the Clifford happy feet, and their credit to Illinois' defensive front. I don't want to say dominated, but right out of the gate, they definitely impacted the game and changed what I think Penn State thought they were going to do in this game. They were Johnny Newton, Keith Randolph. I can't think of the other guy. The 3-4 front that they play, which generally turns into like a 5-man front with the outside linebackers, that gave Penn State's offensive line fits. Olu Fashanu, there were some plays where he really did not look good. It was just like kind of across the board. We got to be better. And I think from a coaching staff perspective, this is like the perfect scenario where you go in, you actually get a fairly comfortable win, but there's a lot of stuff on tape that you can go back and play and show the guys that this is not good enough. Like we did not play well. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. Sometimes you have to learn those lessons with a loss, but I think the best case scenario is you get the win, but you still kind of have the takeaway of, man, we did not look good and we didn't play well.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think Allard didn't play well. One question I have for everybody watching, let us know who you guys player of the game was for Penn State. I think Chop Robinson had a really good game today. I mean, it's hard not to say somebody in the secondary with all those turnovers, but I felt like Chop Robinson was getting back there, getting pressure consistently. And a lot of those interceptions were caused by him putting so much pressure on the quarterback. What do you guys think, Devin?
I think Abdul Carter played his best game of the season by a mile. He was in on a lot of plays. I mean, Joe Klatt showcased that one. I think it was in the middle of the third quarter or late third quarter, where they ran a sweep to the opposite side, and he was still the first guy to hit the running back. That just kind of showcased what we know Abdul Carter is capable of and what he showed at times last year and has kind of been missing in the first two games. But we've gotten away with it because we've played so well everywhere else that we haven't needed Abdul Carter to be elite. It was far and away his best game, and I think he really took a big step towards what we need him to be when we get into quote unquote real games. And then offensively, I don't know who I would say is our player of the game. You know, I mean, obviously I'm the Allard guy, and he played bad. I totally agree. He had 17 incompletions, but only, I mean, we want to complain about drops, but there was 3? I think Malik had 2 and
McLean had 2, yeah.
And I think Cephas had 1. So that's still 14 incompletions that were not really accurate.
So in his defense, I'll say he avoided the major blockbuster mistake. I mean, he didn't have a great game, sure, but he didn't really compound the problems by forcing the ball too much or
I think that's something issues. I think that's something he's doing really well. I mean, he obviously this number isn't really it's kind of crazy, but he's already thrown for 1,000 yards in his career now at Penn State, only like the 34th or 35th guy ever to do that. I know it's kind of weird, but that's usually like a high school number that people look at. But I saw Basic Blues tweeted it. But still, for him to have that many yards and that many pass attempts and has still not thrown an interception yet in his career, I think that is a testament to that. He doesn't really force things. I think as he gets more comfortable and as the offensive line continues to improve, he can kind of slow down those happy feet and he won't miss passes like that wide open KLS in the end zone. I forget which tight end was open on that other one. That was if it was Warren or Johnson, but there was another one that probably could have been a touchdown, if not a big play where he just didn't see him. And I think he's just a little jittery, and the offensive line looked bad. So I can understand being jittery. I'm not a guy that's going to want to get hit a bunch of times either. So I kind of get it, but this was his weakest performance, I think, even dating back to last season, which I don't know how much stock we put into last season, but I think he's going to have to take a big step as we get into Michigan and Ohio State, and even next week against
Even
Iowa,
next week, yeah.
who is probably even better defensively than Illinois in different ways. I saw somebody tweet it, and Jordan, you might like this. It was like, who did we really piss off to get Illinois and Iowa in back-to-back weeks where we're just gonna have to slog through some defensive battles and to try to win. At least next week's at home and in the whiteout, but it's gonna be tough, and Aller's got to improve. But I mean, we've been saying that he's still only 19, man. I mean, it's his first career road start, so we got to win.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's there's been a lot worse Penn State quarterback performances on the road in the past. And one thing I'll say, I feel like I've been impressed, even dating back to last year, but all this year, his ability to scramble and climb the pocket and make something out of nothing is better than I think most people would suspect looking at his frame. He's done a decent job scrambling. I think today he had 24 yards rushing. Nothing. He's not a major threat on the ground necessarily, but he's athletic enough that he can make you pay if you blitz or you don't keep somebody spying on him and he picks it up. He can move a little bit. And I think that's nice to see. Like I said, it's not going to be the bread and butter of our offense, but it's always helpful to know that he's got the sense of when it's time to tuck it and run.
Yeah, I agree. Duncan, I see you're still on here, brings up a great point. Only field goal we missed was block, went 7 of 8.
And that was 52-yarder.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was going to say, I think we found our kicker.
Yeah.
And that block was Newton. That guy, that guy was the best player in the field, I think, today. I mean, he just was. They just didn't have a lot of help elsewhere. I think the front was pretty good overall. I mean, Devin's point about Iowa was well taken. I think you'll see from Iowa a similar stout defensive front, but there's definitely way more talent in the defensive backfield for Iowa than you have with Illinois. So that's a game where if Aller's not sharp again, that secondary, you see it every week. It seems like Iowa is returning an interception for a touchdown. So it'll be, to your point, it'll be a nice 2-game stretch to see. And it is weird. To your point, we have Illinois, Iowa, Northwestern, bang, bang, bang. All the 3 Big Ten West crossovers are out of the way. And then the rest of the season is, well, you have UMass in there, but then it's all of the East games take place after that. So it's kind of get your sloggy West crossover games out of the way before you move into, the divisional play. But
yeah, I'm excited for next week. I'm going to be up there for the game. So whiteouts, I think I've only ever seen us lose one whiteout, and that was 2018, I believe. Yeah. No, 2017 against Ohio. No, it was 2018 against Ohio State. Yeah. And we should have won that game. Well, maybe not won.
That was the infamous. Well, I think we should have, but that was the infamous 4th and 5 draw call that everybody lost their mind over with Franklin and Ricky Ronnie. And in reality, you can go back and play it. The play works if Chase Young isn't just a superhuman freak of nature.
But you got to scheme around that, right?
Sometimes you can't scheme around. It's like Newton today. I don't know how, when he's playing the way that he played, I don't know how you scheme around that. It's not like there's a player on the sideline that you can sub in and say, okay, here's our matchup. That's how we solve that. Or
yeah, it's kind of like when we had Micah Parsons and people were trying to scheme around that. Yeah,
and I think too the way they play that 3-4 is like you would think he's just like plopped in the middle as that nose tackle, but he was kind of lining up everywhere. He was taking on the Penn State's offensive tackles. He was lined up inside, and it was very interesting. I think. And I don't want to harp back on the Kansas game, but I will. But if you go back and watch the Kansas game, the way Kansas attacked them is they ran a lot of jet sweep and a lot of quick screen passes, and they really stretched everything horizontally. They stretched the Illinois defense from sideline to sideline, and that's kind of how they negated the strength of the Illinois defense. We didn't really try that. I feel like we didn't really throw many bubble screens or bunch screens. We didn't really try a lot of jet sweep. The few times we tried to run on the perimeter, I feel like Singleton, we just didn't get to the perimeter. So I don't know if that's something where Illinois cleaned up what the mistakes were against Kansas, or if it's something we just didn't have the personnel to take advantage of. I will continue to bang the drum. Kansas is a really good offensive team. I don't think Illinois is a bad team. In the Big Ten West, They don't get Ohio State. They don't get Michigan. They have a game with Maryland. I'm not necessarily predicting it, but I wouldn't be shocked if they won or were close to winning the West Division. It's going to be kind of a nightmare slog on that side of the conference, but
yeah, they got to figure out quarterback. You can't have your quarterback turning the ball over that much, but that's my take on Illinois. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the game. Like, hopefully the pollsters only look at the box score.
They do. If they look at anything at all.
Yeah.
Other than the score.
Because, first half, we had, 3 turnovers that we got in the first half, and
first quarter.
We
were in the first quarter.
And they resulted in 2 field goals and a touchdown, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Or actually, I think just 2 field goals.
Yeah, I think it was just the 2 field goals.
Yeah. We did get lucky. I know some of our buddies were saying our punter sucks, but like that one punt they were referring to literally almost got blocked. Like,
yeah.
I don't think they realized
it probably should have got blocked. That was an interesting one. While we're talking special teams, I feel like Caden Saunders has done a really good job at punt return man. Hasn't really broken one, but he's been very solid. He hasn't had any bobbles or anything that I'm always kind of holding my breath. You're just always worried what happens, right? And he's done. I think he's really stabilized that position, and he actually got into the mix today at wide receiver, which was interesting. I think Harrison Wallace was obviously out, and I think one thing, and this is like where the rubber will meet the road, is Franklin's always talking about the team depth, and I think the team depth is really, really good. But at some point, you gotta know who your guys are, and we're playing like 10 guys at wide receiver, and
none of them can catch the
play.
ball.
That's great, but sometimes that's because you don't have guys, and you're just continually trying to figure out who you've got and whose day it is, and that can be challenging. That can be challenging for the quarterback. Sometimes different speeds, different sizes, and McLean had a nice opening night with the West Virginia game, and then you just can't drop. You can't have the type of drops that he had today. There's drops where it's like, it's a tough catch, but it hits you in the hands, and then there's drops where it's like, come on, I could catch that. Like gotta catch. You have to catch that, and I don't know what the answer is. I think Keandre Lambert-Smith is obviously the number one, but then after that, it's just if Wallace is injured and going to be out for a while, I don't know what the story is, but Liam Clifford made a really nice play. Probably the nicest ball Aller threw all day was that sideline shot down the right side right before halftime. Just perfectly placed, nice route. Clifford did a great job giving himself just enough room on the sideline. A little discouraging that we didn't punch that in for a touchdown there, but great throw, got points on the board.
Yeah, wide receiver just is something that, I know we have like all these NFL wide receivers, but I feel like we never have that true number one big wide receiver that we really need. And I don't know if it's our recruiting or what, but that's something I feel like we're really missing, that one solid big wide receiver to target. And we kind of make up for it with Tyler Warren, who, I know this might be a hot take, but I think he might be better than Theo Johnson. And I know you guys were talking about that in our group chat during the game, but Devin, any thoughts?
Yeah, I love Tyler Warren. I think he's as good a blocker, if not better, than Theo Johnson, and he's proven to be really reliable in the catching game. So maybe Aller just isn't comfortable throwing it to Theo Johnson. I don't know, but I feel like Warren is open more, and whenever he's open, he's gonna catch it. He's not a guy that has drops. I think that touchdown catch was really nice. It was not a good throw, which obviously it's a running back, third string running back throwing the pass, but for him to find a way to get his feet down right in the corner or in the sideline there, that's a great catch for a tight end whose primary job the last 2 years was just come in and help block a little bit and wasn't or be the wildcat tight end against Auburn. For him to now be catching that type of a pass, I think says a lot about his growth, and we love tight ends on this podcast, so I'm all about it.
Big tight end guys here.
I think he's just he's just more nimble. I think he's a little bit better at getting open. I love Theo Johnson. I think the last 2 years we've talked about him in the preseason. show as like, hey, this is the guy that we think is going to blow up. Like we're just waiting for it to happen, and it just I don't know that it will. He's got like the perfect build, but he just seems kind of stiff. Like I don't think he's as adept at route running and getting open as Warren.
Yeah.
But having those guys at that size and they can both block and they both have pretty good hands, and so they'll have their moments through the season. I just think, Theo Johnson is a guy that everybody's just been waiting to blow up, and maybe statistically it's never going to happen, or maybe it's one of those things where it won't happen until he gets to the NFL and then he kind of like blows up after college. You see that happen sometimes with guys, but it's a good luxury to have that. There's no issues at the tight end position. They actually played Khalil Dinkins a fair amount today, number 16 in like real minutes, and he was out there when they shifted from the power T, and it was interesting. Penn State was in that power T backfield setup and shifted out of that at one point, and Brett Bielema had to burn a timeout because the Illinois defense clearly was not sure who was supposed to go out and cover the tight ends. And when you have guys like that, it's like, do you leave the corners go out with them and you have this huge size mismatch, or do you try to put like a linebacker out there on them? And if so, I think you really like Tyler Warren or Theo Johnson operating out wide in space against a probably slower linebacker. So while we're on the power T, I guess the one disappointing thing
I was going to ask you about it.
We didn't run the ball well out of it. There was I mentioned the Liam Clifford catch. That right after that, we failed to punch the ball in the end zone from inside, I think, the 10. And then early in the game, when we kicked one of those early field goals, we got inside the 5, ran a couple, and to Penn State's credit, we lined up, or to the coaching staff, we lined up and we ran the ball. And I liked the aggressiveness of like, look, we like our O-line, we like our running game. Let's play smash mouth, but it didn't work. And I think part of that again is credit to Illinois. They've got a good stout defensive front, but that'll be something to watch. I think we've become accustomed to that power T formation just being like bread and butter and short yardage and goal line, and it's just kind of always worked, and today it didn't, and so that's the way it goes sometimes. But
and I was gonna bring that up too, because the first 2 times we did it, I felt like, man, this didn't work, and now it's getting a little stale as far as like it's a little predictable. You kind of know what's going to happen. It's going to one guy on either side, and then the other 2 are going to block. But then, like you said, then we run a pass out of it to Katron Allen that probably could have been caught. I mean, it was a really nice pass and a really hard catch, but he still probably should have caught it. And then we, like you said, then we motioned out of it into a shotgun formation almost with receivers out wide, which were tight ends. So that gives me some hope that we're starting to understand that we can't just do the exact same thing out of this power T. We are going to have to do some different things. It'd be really nice to maybe sneak a tight end out from like the far left tackle position as like a crossing pattern or something. I feel like I've seen a lot of teams run that over the course of history, that if you get a good enough play action pass there, that should be wide open. So that gave me some hope. Like you said, it was nice that we thought we could run the ball. We couldn't. And then we tried to make some subtle changes to it and some different plays out of it. It just didn't work today. But Illinois' front 3 plus, I guess I should say, front 3 plus was really good. So.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say before we move on from the wing T formation is we did get them to use 2 timeouts when putting that out there. So, yeah, maybe we didn't have the success with it, but forcing teams to take timeouts in the first and third quarters, I'm kind of happy with that. So, Zach, I'll let you handle this comment. This seems like in your wheelhouse. Talking about Penn State athletics, chasing the money with the networks, which I think it's actually a Big Ten thing. I don't know, but
it's no say in that.
It's totally a conference thing, and the way the last round, the TV deal that the Big Ten just entered into last year, which made it the per school payout is the most of any conference, even more than the SEC. It's a combination of CBS, NBC, and Fox / Big Ten. So you have, we opened week 1, we played NBC in the primetime evening game. CBS next week we're going to be in the CBS primetime game. We played on Peacock last week because that's the streaming service for NBC. There'll be some games on the Big Ten Network because that's majority owned by Fox. So it's going to be kind of a mess in terms of different channels are going to be hosting Penn State games. But as far as I'm aware, other than non-conference games, none of them will be ESPN or ABC. It's all going to be CBS,
Correct.
NBC, or Fox FS1 or Big Ten network. So I like it because I'm tired of ESPN and ABC, and I think I'm not a huge Gus Johnson guy, but I like what Fox has to offer. I really like the NBC crew that we had week 1, Todd Blackledge and Noah Eagle. I thought the whole production actually of that NBC primetime coverage was really good. I know, Devin, you watched last week. I didn't really catch any of it, but the Maryland game, I think that has a potential to be really good. And then next week will be interesting because we're going to be on CBS, which we had CBS last year with the Auburn game. But that was the first time in a long time I think Penn State had ever been on CBS. So,
yeah.
But Derek is right that as far as chasing the money, that's what it is all about. But it's not Penn State individually. It's the league as a whole cobbling together the best TV rights package that they could.
Yeah. And I will say with Gus Johnson, I think he was the only thing worse than our offense.
He was awful today. Man.
There was no Chuck Sizzle tonight. Like, they just picked the ball for the 4th time. Like, it was so casual.
Yeah.
I
genuinely hope he's like sick or something.
The Trey Potts,
because he sounded awful. Yeah, the Trey Potts touchdown. I mean, that was the most.
He was just like,
one.
Yeah, halfback toss pass, and he just acted like it was like a
toss pass.
73
I guess he caught it.
Yeah.
Oh, who cares? How much am I getting paid today?
And I normally think he's like a little over the top. It seems like it's either it's an extreme, one of the end of the extreme for him, and he's either like going nuts. Like if you go back and watch the Big Ten championship game from 2016, to me, like, he just kept making like Camelot references, and he called Trace McSorley like the wizard of State College or something, or like, and it was just too much. I enjoy the enthusiasm, but he's normally like, and I love him for basketball. I think I mentioned to you, Devin. I think he's really good for basketball because the game flow of basketball is other than fouls and timeouts. Like there's a flow of the game going constantly, and he's getting like hyped up, and it seems more genuine. Whereas with football, it's like you have 5 seconds of action and then a ton of downtime and then 5 seconds of action. It just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't fit as well for me. I think he's very good at basketball though.
And he was so hyped for that Wendy's promo for the loaded whatever it is. I mean, he was like going crazy for that. And then Penn State picks off a pass and he's just like, whatever.
Well,
I think he just doesn't like Penn State. Maybe.
I'm sure him and
don't like it.
Him and Klatt's hearts were definitely still in Boulder, Colorado. And the amount of, not to get off the topic, but the amount of like hype that is going towards Colorado right now. I feel bad for Illinois because this was supposed to be the host of the big noon kickoff. And I get it from Fox's perspective. They were never going to draw the morning crowd that in Champaign that they drew in Boulder today, but kind of sucks for Illinois. They were supposed to play host to that event.
So Derek brings up a point, and I think he speaks for a lot of Penn State fans that I've seen on the internet today, talking about issues with the offensive play calling today. What are you guys' take on that?
I mean, I didn't really have a problem with the play calling as far as I can't remember thinking or texting in our group chat like, wow, that was a bad play call.
I mean, our goal line offense wasn't great, but
it wasn't great.
Some of that's execution, I think.
And the fact that their D line was really good. I mean, Johnny Newton, like our offensive line was not good today. I don't know if I would say that that's a play calling or a scheming policy as far as just like our offensive line was not great today. So I don't necessarily disagree with you, Derek, but I'm not quite. I don't think I would say that it's Yursik's problem or his fault. Our offensive line needs to be better, and that will help a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I feel like
I'm kind of on board with
like the goal line stuff you just talked about. It's today. I mean, like the goal line stuff again. I was happy where we lined it up and we tried to run the ball and we just couldn't. Like I was content with that from like a strategy standpoint. Could we have schemed up some better execution? Maybe, but I also think we talked about in the preview that the way to beat Illinois' defense was to do what Kansas did. And as I said a few minutes ago, I don't know that we really tried to replicate what Kansas did, but that's not our bread and butter. We don't have a running quarterback the way Kansas does. And to be honest, when we did go, 4 wide and really spread it out, we didn't execute. That's when we did go 4 wide and really spread Illinois' defense out and tried to get quick hitters over the middle, that's when you saw a lot of poor passes from Aller. There was a number of routes too where I can think of a couple with Liam Clifford where he was running some short outs, and the timing with him and Aller, somebody was off. It's hard to know who, but it's just so when we did try to do the things that I think I'm sure schemed up what we wanted to do going into the game, we didn't execute. So it's kind of hard to, at some point, you just kind of get back to what's working or what you think is safer when you have a day like this where it just doesn't seem like it's the big plays are going to click.
Yeah, and even
I'm sure Jordan, we got a comment from Duncan. I'm sure Jordan wants to address, but
go ahead, Devin. I'll let you finish.
I was going to say, even that one the Malik McLean drop was on like a 4 wide and a short curl pattern where it was like, I don't remember if it was second or third down, but it was like 3rd and 5, and he curled and just hit him right in the hands. I mean, that's another play where we're spread out looking to attack. We send a guy deep and we have a quick curl. Aller did put that one on the money and just completely got dropped. So I would agree is that it looked like when we were spread them like we talked about, good things were there. We just didn't execute. Like you said, I definitely with Liam, there was 2 or 3 passes where it either sailed over Liam's head or he cut the route off short or something. Not sure which it was because we don't know the plays. We're not at practice, but either way, something was wrong, but I don't think it was the play itself. I think one of them screwed up. So go ahead, Jordan, with your comment from our boy Duncan.
From Duncan from CT. I'm guessing that's Connecticut.
I don't know. He had the Cowboys helmet as his profile picture, so yeah. I don't know.
That's typical Cowboys fans, though. He says South Carolina 7.
Now that the Patriots dynasty is over,
I'm a diehard fan of Cox right now. I think you forgot a "the" in there, maybe, or we're not doing freezing anymore. One of the two. But shout out to
this
Duncan.
Is a family-friendly show, Duncan. I don't know if you can say that on here.
So we'll put any final thoughts from the followers today before we head out. We got another comment here from Derek. He says, however, you're supposed to have the top left offensive tackle in the conference. Surely you run to that side of the field, then come back to the weak side as Illinois overcompensates. I guess that's what he was referring to when talking about the offensive coordinator. To be honest, our running game just was not good on the outside today. I mean, we started off trying to run a pitch to the outside and it kind of got blown up. What did you guys see running scheme wise? Maybe this ties in with that.
I think we struggled running to the outside, left or right. It just seemed like there was a number of plays where Singleton just didn't get to the corner. And again, whether that's execution, whether that's Illinois doing something we weren't expecting, it's hard to know without going back and really diving into the film. But I also feel like Fashanu, and maybe this is a hot take, I don't think he's like an elite run blocker. I think when you go back and watch the film, I think he is an elite pass blocker, and he did have one play today where he got basically thrown back into Aller's lap. But I think he's a very, very technically sound pass blocker. But he just doesn't strike me as a guy that is just mauling people in the run game. That's just me. I'm not an offensive line expert, but I just think that they had guys on the defensive front that gave us problems that we didn't have the first 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. We really couldn't get it. There was just no flow early. I feel like maybe that's what was causing some anxiety for me. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the rhythm. There was no rhythm. I mean, we had a quick 3 and out early, and then it gets harder as a quarterback and a play caller because now you're just kind of behind the 8 ball. And again, if not for those turnovers early, the game maybe goes a different direction. And the anxiety that you're talking about only gets ratcheted up if we're just going 3 and out and putting the defense back out in the field.
Yeah, I felt like the defense was out there, but they were Our secondary looked really good. I think we had 4 different people with interceptions today.
Yeah.
And might have had that 6th turnover that was a fumble that they didn't call, which I think kind of was a fumble, but
And DeLuca dropped a pick, and Elston dropped a pick there in the end with the backup quarterback. I mean, we legitimately could have had like 7 interceptions today.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that will be good
I think our
versus Iowa.
cornerback room is as good as I said this.
Mm-hmm.
I think our cornerback room is as good as anybody in the country. I mean, you saw it today. I feel like through 3 weeks we haven't even talked about or heard the name Kalen King because nobody's throwing at him. And then when they throw at Johnny Dixon, they throw at Daquan Hardy, interception. Cam Miller, who's a true freshman, probably like our number 4 cornerback, did a really good job while Hardy was out. He gets an interception today, steps in front of an out route, and there's like an embarrassment of riches there, especially after losing a guy I think Joey Porter went in the first pick of the 2nd round or something, but it's kind of crazy to lose a guy like that, and maybe that position group is even stronger this year.
Yeah, I agree. So Derek says he's a new subscriber and looking forward to Iowa. So it's good to have you on. We typically do this live show after every game. It might just be Zach for Iowa. I'll try to hop on, but I'm going to be in the stadium, and the Wi-Fi and internet does not work very well in the stadium area. But maybe when I get downtown to a bar, I can hop on. So.
Live interviews.
I'll be at the Shandy Gap, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think this week we'll see how the rest of the games play out, but maybe I was, a little overexcited with putting Penn State 3rd in my rankings, but I don't know. Everybody seems so susceptible. We just saw Florida State probably should have lost that game.
Yep, definitely should have lost.
So it's like, maybe it's just, it's like 2007 and it's just going to be madness, and hopefully we can keep winning and build and really have that momentum going into Ohio State. Another team I'm worried about, I know Zach, you talked a little bit about them, but Maryland in College Park, I don't think that's going to be an easy win for us, but we'll have to see. Any final thoughts before we head out here?
No, there's a lot of games on right now that are. I'm just pulling up the score. Obviously, Duncan told us South Carolina's beating Georgia right now in the 2nd quarter. Notre Dame's only up by 2 scores in the 3rd quarter. Iowa is losing to Western Michigan, who was my super dog last week and got absolutely hammered by Syracuse. They're beating Iowa basically at the end of the 1st quarter. They're in a weather delay out there in Iowa. Utah is only
that game was like plus 29.5. That was stealing.
Yeah. Utah is only beating Weber State by like 20. I mean, who the F is Weber State? I mean, I think I heard of them in basketball.
Weber's not a state, I think.
Yeah. Is it? Wait, it's Chris Webber. Oh, so it's Michigan. My mistake.
It's Toronto.
Yeah. I don't know what's happening.
They're fighting Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
That's where Damian Lillard went.
Oh, that's probably why I thought I heard of him in basketball, but yeah. So Utah's only beating them like 30-7 right now. So
that's all I know. I don't. Weber State is Damian Lillard.
Yeah, we kind of started this, but we started saying this.
Do we think Rutgers is for real?
No.
I mean, as real as Rutgers can get.
Yeah.
They're beating Vol Tech. Yeah, I think they're as real as Rutgers can be right now.
Yeah. But they're still going to finish last in the Big Ten East.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the Big Ten East before today.
Who are they going to beat in the Big Ten?
Only
East?
had 1 loss, and it was internal. So just because Ohio State beat Indiana through 2 weeks. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how Sparty plays today against Washington.
Yeah, what's that game? 5 o'clock, something like that.
Yeah, Antonio's back in house, right? So
yeah.
Be interesting. Yeah, I think that's about all I have. If you guys don't have anything else, we'll cut it off like right at 40 minutes. Well, just to recap, Penn State defeats Illinois 30-13. It was a little shaky early, but we got it done late, and hopefully we see better next week versus Iowa, but it's going to be the whiteout. I feel like everybody shows up for the whiteout, so I don't foresee us losing to Iowa, and I think we'll use today's game, look at the tape, see where maybe we just got out game planned by Illinois' defense, and I have to do some more research on Iowa. I don't know if they have anybody like sorry, I'm forgetting his name, Johnny
Newton.
Yeah. So
Newton.
yeah. Hopefully that corrects itself, but that's all I got. You guys got anything else before we head out?
3-0. That's all that
3-0.
matters. Or 1-0 today, as Franklin would say.
Yeah, that's all that matters. And make sure to subscribe if anybody's watching this. We're going to be giving away tickets to the Indiana game coming up here shortly. So we're going to pick that off our subscribers list on YouTube. So I'll put more details out later this week, but there'll be 2 tickets and a parking pass, lower bowl, north end zone. So make sure to subscribe. That's all I got. Nittany Nation out.